my God, I don't even remember. I think it's 10 years ago. Just this idea about talking about intelligence. But I was not intelligent enough at the time, so it takes me 10 years to write just one draft. But I want to play with that. I met a couple of scientists, and I was amazed by what they tells me. It was just about the cancer, about the cells, the fact that we have, hundreds of billions of cells who communicate just together, like 1,000 signal per second per cell. The web is nothing compared to that. She's just a simple girl, and she's gonna became the most ultimate knowledge on the universe. So I like to play with, you look stupid, you're intelligent, what's the, you can become one or the other. It was very interesting and very playful to play with that. So it starts with lots of conversation with big scientists. 12 of them were Nobel Peace Prize, and they are all of them in the ICM, the Institute for the research about the brain in Paris. It's a very beautiful center. And I work with these guys to make them talk. So I was fascinated, and I take all their information, and some of them you can make a film with it. Some of them you can't. But I was just trying to find my food, I'm obliged to have a professor in a film because I have to tell what's true. So everything he said is 90% is real fact. And that's where the balance became to be very interesting, because you have her, which is purely entertainment. It's a film. But the other half is true. And it's, if you mix the two half, if you mix it fast enough, you don't know what's true, what's not. And so I need this professor because he's the authority of the film and who makes it possible. And it's also very interesting to see how a professor will react to something that he always imagined, but he never seen. Morgan Freeman is just the ultimate professor for two reasons. The first, he's totally convinced about the theory because he's very aware of it. I didn't know before we met for the film, but he's really aware of it. He is excited about it. So it was a pleasure for him just to talk about it. And the second thing, he's such a good actor that everything he said, you believe it. I'm fascinated by Chong Min-sik. He's one of the greatest actor I met. He's a superstar in Asia, in Korea, Japan, and all this. I think it's probably DiCaprio multiplied by Tom Cruise. He's really huge over there, and he's adorable. He's the sweetest, so he's not a villain at all. She read the script. The way she talked the first time about the script, I was enjoyed because she really understand the purpose of the story and all this, and she was excited about for the real reason, which is the story. So at this moment, for me, it was done. It was her for sure. I always have the desire for this film to start to another place, and Asia was perfect. When you watch the film, you understand. Then you can have a villain who doesn't understand anything. You can, for lots of reasons, it was good. So the choice after was there's a couple of towns. Taipei was one of the 3 or 4, cities. And but the funny thing is, on the script, I always put Taipei. because I have a souvenir. I went for the Fifth Element in promotion, and I have a souvenir of the town 20 years ago, and I love the town, the feeling, the people, and I was staying in an hotel which I like. So I give that as a reference at the beginning, and then the productions, because you always want to see, how much it costs. Is it more expensive here or not? Okay. So there's a couple of cities. And the funny thing is, at the end, we end up to Taipei in the hotel that I knew 20 years ago. Because, I find nothing better than the thing that I have in my head at the 20 years before. I want the people to travel. I want the people to do like, whoa, where are we going? And just to follow the ride. It's a ride. If you accept the ride, if you refuse and say, oh, okay, hold on, is it possible that this or this, then you're on the side of the film. But if you let yourself go in a ride and then you want to enjoy it, you're gonna have a pretty amazing ride.
Lucy is just in my mind, she's just a girl who is living in Taipei, maybe doing a little bit of modeling or, kind of odd jobs here and there. She's a student. And she's, been away from home for 6 months, and she's just, kind of in a transient phase in her life when we find her. And, she's kind of figuring out who she is, and she's feeling a little bit like she should probably get her life on track. And that's kind of all we know about her when we find her. We shot in Taipei for about 2.5 or 3 weeks, and I really loved filming in that city. I just loved being able to explore that city, and I think in some ways, just the fact that we were all so tired and jet lagged and out of our element really added to the kind of the disorientation of the character, and what's kind of the place that she's coming out of when she sort of starts to be affected by this drug. I think the film is it's what happens to this young woman. It's a very, she's put in these sort of extenuating circumstances, I would say, that really, through a kind of brutal series of events, lead her to be able to use a greater and greater capacity of her brain. And it's really kind of, I think she's just a vessel for that to take place, really. That's what it's about. It was wonderful working with Choi. He's a formidable co-star in the sense. I mean, we didn't speak the same language, but we could communicate very much with our expression. He's a very warm person, it seems. So even though we were doing scenes that were really violent and cold and brutal, he's so enigmatic, his presence, that it was we could kind of communicate just in a kind of spiritual sort of a way. For me, just to prepare for this film, I wanted to be in really good physical condition because I just wanted to make sure that this character looked capable, even though you don't actually see her doing any kind of martial arts movements or anything like that. I want the audience should be able to think, okay, this girl can handle a gun. And a lot of the movements that I do in character are with a lot of intention and purpose, and I wanted those movements to feel strong. So when you see her how she stands, how she maneuvers. It's with a lot of like a kind of inner strength, and so that just comes from being physically capable. I only wanted to be aware of what Luc had intended this character to be aware of, her capacity, how she, as she grows, how her this growing capacity affects her intelligence, her ability, what she sees, what she's experiencing. I didn't want that to be, this to be muddled by anything that was nothing that my character would know. These things are kind of happening to her, but she's not previously aware of what this next step is. She's just kind of evolving as it happens.